Hello students, welcome back. Today I'm going to take you through further in detail. And who remembers what I said yesterday about planning? Well, I should not use the word yesterday here. In the last, I would say, lecture. So, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So today we are going to work further on planning. Now, in terms of suppliers, what are the different things or aspects we're looking in the planning from suppliers part? Let's have a look today. So the first thing is learning objectives. So now, what are different convention suppliers plan and what are the activities that they plan? And obviously we need to understand the relevance in planning when it comes to convention or meeting. So we're going to do these two topics today. Let's move further. Repeating the same thing, for any success of a business, rather for any business in that case, planning is must. And especially when it comes to planning in terms of convention or a meeting, which is actually a lot of uncertainty because it's not a product, it's a service. So thorough planning is must. Now, there are areas of planning, especially for the convention business and for the suppliers. The areas include product design. Well, we're talking about product here while we're talking about service. Yes, we call it product because we'll be giving them a package. That package is called product, and in that package there will be transportation, there will be accommodation, food and beverage, the meeting itself or the conference itself or the convention itself, and then the activities which is happening. So all those together we call it a product. So how do we design the product? Okay, so that's the first area. Second area is operations. Well, we design the product. We'll say that we're going to have meeting on so and so date with so many people coming in, with so much of food and beverage will be served, audio visuals will be there. All those things are, but how and when these activities will operate. So that's the area, that's a time that we need to work under operations. And lastly, marketing. Well, money makes the mayor go. You remember that? Well, if you do not let people know how you are fulfilling their needs, it's very less chances that they'll come back to you, because we have a lot of competitors in the market, right? So marketing is a process that you educate your clients what you're doing, how you're doing. So marketing is another aspect in terms of planning, that we must know where are we going to market our product or a service rather. Now, when you do this requirements, obviously whose requirements are these? These are requirements of our clients or customers, right? In actually finding out the requirements and the needs of the customers, please be very, very specific, because one small misunderstanding can lead to a different setup of arrangements of maybe seating arrangement, maybe food and beverage, maybe timing, breaks, lights, audio, visuals, so many things. So please be specific. It's also called eye to detail. That means you must have that eye that picks up every small issue, and you must be detailed and specific. Now, why it is so? Because obviously these requirements of the customers are matched with the supplier's capabilities and services. Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about customer who wants to get the meeting or the seminar done, and on the second hand we're talking about suppliers. Suppliers are the people who have their hotels, their convention centers, they let us, or the meeting halls, they let us. So who are we? We are the one who are liaising with customers and the suppliers, and we are the middle person. We really make this service to the best of the ability, so that our customers are able to perform what they are supposed to. Could be annual general meeting, could be a seminar, could be a product launch or marketing. Now, as we were talking about clients' needs, so we also need to understand that there's a lot of requirement of manpower and infrastructure. When I talk about infrastructure, what are we talking about? We are talking about the building itself, that means where the meeting or the conference or even convention is going to happen. That's the first thing. We're also looking at the facilities within the building. We are looking at transportation to and fro from the building. We are looking at audio visuals, AV services, secretary services. We are looking at email, business house. All those things are, do we have all those things as per the requirement of our client or the customer? And then more importantly comes the manpower. Yes, manpower is very, very important because people are going to interact, right? Well, I understand during this COVID situation things have changed, but eventually the human impact remains paramount, especially when we have such a huge function or convention for that matter. The manpower to direct people, crowd controlling, setting up the infrastructure or the different sections, and providing food and beverage and allied services. Now again, let's go back to the customer. So what happens is, once you have your suppliers, so customer says, I want to have a meeting for my 500 of employees. I'm going to give them a training. You need to find accommodation, you need to find a meeting hall, you want to have a food and beverage. You will be picking up from the airport or train station or by road. You will be bringing them over here, or even bus station for that matter, and then you will put them in the so and so accommodation rooms and this and that. Maybe you don't have enough rooms in one hotel. You may have to put in 2 different hotels or 3 different hotels with availability for 500 people, right? And then, okay, fair enough. How will they go from hotel to the convention or the meeting hall? Which meeting hall we're selecting? What times are the breaks? What times is the food and snacks? And then how then we do some activities or entertainment if they want to go somewhere. So all those things, it costs a lot of time and planning, isn't it? Now, what if there are some alterations? Now, the chief guests were supposed to coming maybe half a day. They're not in the very first half of the day. So if you actually have made a schedule with the dates and the names and who's who, what is it doing, you change it again. Or you have to replace a person A with person B, or 50 people are actually coming early one day, isn't it? Or now we have to divide into 2 different groups, isn't it? So this can happen, right? Things may change. So when things change, it's a duty of our duty to make sure we work with them, with our clients, to give them what they require. So that again takes a lot of efforts, energies, arrangements, because you may have ordered food for 500 people, but only there are 450 people. So we don't want to waste food for 50 people and pay money for that, isn't it? So on and so forth. Or there may be some improvements. Maybe out of those 500 people, 200 people actually are vegetarian and 50 are vegans. I did not know this information early. So while we are looking forward to take care of the needs of the customers and matching them with the suppliers of the services, which is infrastructure and manpower, when you're matching the needs, you should also look at what is the budgeting from your organization. That means you, as a liaison person, what are your organization's need, right? So that way we have to be very, very careful when we're meeting the needs of the clients. Now let's go ahead and do one more step further, that we already got these people over here. Now we have to look at seating arrangement. Now when there are people who want to have smaller meeting, bigger meeting, conventions, obviously different seating arrangements will be required, right? Now it all depends on what types of meetings it is, and that's why the seating arrangement will be changed, right? Now, there are layouts. I'll explain you about layers too. That means how should the participants sit? Are they just listening, or they are taking notes, or they are having interaction? Now, do you know when there is a road show, how does a road show happen? Or when you go to your temple or religious place, how do people sit? Or when you go to marriage function, how do people go and dance? So what is the seating arrangement in the marriage? What is the seating arrangement in the cinema and theater? What is the seating arrangement in your classroom, isn't it? It's different because there's a different context why this people are gathered over there. So it also depends on the number of people, and obviously if what actions needs to be taken into consideration. What if there are people who are having some disabilities? They will be wheelchair accessed, right? So we have to keep all those things into consideration while we are arranging seating arrangement. Now, there's something called theater style. I was saying, when you go for a movie, what is it? It's just, someone is there on the podium, and we have to listen. So they're in the front and we are sitting, all us facing one way. So lectures, AV presentations, clubs, and so on and so on. Classroom, as you say, so obviously teachers in the front, and then we're sitting and we're listening to one, again focusing on one, and then it could be done, the classroom style could be done in sales meeting, press conferencing, or even participant involvement, because what if they have to write, in classroom you write. Now, I would ask you to please go onto the book and have a look at individual design, how it is looking, especially the arrangements. We have U-shaped, well, as the name says U, so it's again for the presentations and some discussions with the person. There's a hollow rectangle, that means it's a rectangle and inside there's nothing, it's on the sides for interaction, so that we're facing each other and can have further interaction. A smaller one, boardroom, so it'll be like table that I'm sitting, because in that, so it'll be a table where maybe 8 to 10 people can sit, could be even 5 depending on that. And then there are some round tables where exactly, when you go to marriage functions or even restaurants, when you see small round tables over there, so that's again, there's a more interaction, more closeness to each other. So one of the seating arrangements over here is a theater style. So have a look, this is how it's actually a theater style looks like. Okay, so I will ask you to please go and have a look at other styles of arrangements in your in the textbook. Now, what are the basic requirements of the convention center? So we really need to work on these requirements, because if we do not clarify these things with our clients or the customers at the very first go, it really can cause or put up into a difficult situation. The first thing is, the clarification question comes on the architectural style. What does it mean, architectural style? So the architectural style means, so how the building should look like, how big the hall should be, how many people are you going to arrange. Now, if you remember from last 2.5 years, when we are going through COVID situation, what's happening? In this COVID situation, we are actually quite bound to a lot of restrictions, social distancing, again putting mask on, again making sure that we have hygiene and whatnot, how many people can be, or the capacity of the room is reduced. So if I have a smaller infrastructure, do you think I can fulfill the requirement? No, I cannot. And now if you have to arrange such things nowadays in this state and time, so I would say that it is imperative that you actually follow the government regulations while you're selecting for any convention center. Now, next comes is interior decor. Well, why would we focus and worry about interior decor and meeting rooms decoration? It does really matter. You know why? Because what happens is when, if what is the product launch? If there's a product launch, in that case, in the product launch case, we realize that there are so many people who are watching to your product. They're looking at the product. How should it present? What should be the background? What should be the side? What should be the lighting and whatnot, right? More so, we have social media, isn't it? A very strong force. So we need to have very clear understanding how should the interior decor look like. What is the environment like? So if you're doing a party for a club who is a youth club, and I think the decor will be different when you're doing for a corporate one, isn't it? So that's what I mean by interior decor. And then obviously, we're looking at seating capacity of the convention hall for sure, because I just said that due to COVID-19, if the requirements of the government is different, so you have to fulfill the government requirements. Other than that, also we have to also look at the capacity. Nowadays, you have to also look at the capacity with the people who are having disabilities. How many people with the disabilities can you accommodate? Do you have enough infrastructure and the seating arrangements? So that's another aspect that you must consider when you're looking at the basic requirements of the convention center. Okay, and then further, what if it's a big convention center? I'll give you one example. I was in Mumbai in a few years back, and we had to go for someone's marriage function. And it's a true story. When I went over there, I realized it was again it was a big hall, and this person had 3-4 marriage halls together adjoining. Rather in Mumbai, it was on the floor level. So they had taken where I had to go was floor 2 and 3. So one was ground floor, 2 and 3, and 4 and 5, something like that. So I actually went to the ground floor, and I did not see people around, and I had some steady looks at me too. So what happened? At the reception, when I was entering the hall, they actually did not give me enough instructions were not there. There are 3 different marriages functions going on, but the clear instructions were not there. So if you're doing a conference and a meeting, that it is imperative that we have a reception who actually guides you properly. We should have a way where we know who goes where. We'll discuss this in detail, all right? Now, if there are 2 or 3 meetings going on, then you must have a committee and subcommittee who will actually be taking care of who's taking care of each meeting, right? So one committee is there, then there's subcommittees. We'll come and discuss on committees too. And we have already discussed in brief, but we'll go in detail further. Now, again, audio visual aids. Why do we need AV? We need AV because it really makes our life easier not to yell, especially in the theater style, and we have audio visuals. People can see you very clearly. Now, I will give you another example. I was sitting in a theater where the capacity of the theater was 2,000 people, right? So it was it was an auditorium. I was sitting in an auditorium with the capacity of 2,000. And I still remember I was way too far from the podium. I was in last seats, and I could see very small size of the person who was on the stage. I could hear him because audio was there, but then they realized that they did not drop down the projectors. Then they put it down, and we could see very close, and I could say, okay, what is he saying? I could understand and see the facial expressions too. I could not see the facial expressions unless they dropped down the PowerPoint projectors frames, I believe. Yeah. Now, next thing is, this is where we have to take a decision. What type of audio visuals to be installed, what function it is, what context it is. Is it a general meeting? Is it a students meeting? It is a official discussion going on, or it's a hands-on training. And then next come is how much display is provided. Obviously, most of these meetings, they also have sponsors and they want their name to be displayed over there. So that's another part which will be considered. Now, not only this, there could be another alterations. There could be another request made by the customers that you have to actually consider. All right. And then comes is planning the activities like negotiations. You know, customer will say anything and everything and try to get within the same money. Can you afford to do that? Will your supply give you so much of discounts? Are you eating out your own profits? So you have to see and calculate all those things, right? Now, why you take those decisions? So you actually, have to understand that your customer, when they're making the decision or when they're choosing their venue, they must know about facilities available. Okay, what are things that are available? It should not so happen that you say it's a 2,000 people capacity auditorium and it comes to be 1,500, or even if you say it's 2,000, it is 2,000 but it's quite congested, or the arrangement that you made is actually not as per what is required or cannot be made, technical issues, right? So in that case, it's very, very imperative that you give a full information and your client is aware, and obviously where required, negotiations must be done. Because negotiations is not just for the sake of money. Negotiations actually bring up more discussions about the arrangement, about the pricing, about the infrastructure, about food and beverage. So many things will be clarified there. And once you have clear picture, once you have done negotiation, you actually can then plan what exactly needs to be done. Now, in regards to customer requirements, so obviously, as I was saying, that this is a product where we package everything based on the negotiations and the customer's requirement. But once you have done the customer's requirement and you prepare a package, you actually can demonstrate or have a meeting with the management to demonstrate what package you have and explain your package. But in saying so, if you are going to make a package, you can actually, now you have done negotiations with your client, you can handpick and choose, okay, I want this hall, I want this caterer, I want this transport company. To do that matches the customer's needs, to do choosing those things, you must be aware of the strengths and what the suppliers are offering in the market, isn't it? Now, the next part comes is how should convention supplier plan? Obviously, tourism and hospitality is a quite intangible industry, okay? Now, and it needs a lot of coordination. It's need a lot of, it's chain reaction. So if the travel agency does not go and get person from the airport to the hotel cannot actually, check in your customer. Hotel cannot check in, cannot serve food and beverage, cannot serve breakfast, and the convention center will not have the client. So it's again, it's a chain reaction, but at the same time, they working hand in hand, right? So how should you plan? So you should keep some time just in case of issues that come in place. Okay. Now, in suppliers plan, it's good idea. They should be asking questions. More questions to be asked really give you better answers, like the type of service to be provided, what infrastructure is needed, if there's anything special that you're looking at, or if there's anything, let's say, if not matching your price, is there any alternative that is available that you can offer your client? And again, money will decide the quality. Now, I would like to put it over here. You have a mobile phone in the market which is worth maybe 5,000 rupees, and then you have a mobile which is worth maybe 60,000 rupees or maybe 100,000 rupees, or whatever, 1 lakh rupees, not 1 lakh, is it? No, 50,000, yeah, 1 lakh rupees. Sorry, I have a calculation issue with, Well, so in terms of that, what I'm looking at is the operations planning. So as I was saying, that it is very imperative that we actually let people know that what exactly we have on the service. That means we need to have marketing. So we must have our own plan that how are we going to market our products. Okay, now that's fine. We market products, we tell them this is what we have, and then obviously we are depending on third parties, the suppliers. But the information that you have planned with your customers, and then they have their delegates, then you must actually pass this information. You should have a system how the information will be passed before the event, during the event, after the event. And then obviously you actually need a meeting organizer who actually does this services professionally, because it's again a lot of tasks involved, right? Now there's another activities which called trade fairs and shows. Obviously, besides just national conventions, we have a lot of trade fairs going on. Yes, one of the example is Pragati Maidan in Delhi, which is a permanent place for various types of trades. And obviously, I tell you, there's another one, Indian Trade Promotion Organization, ITPO, which it's a body which plans and manages these fairs and shows. I'm also telling you, there's something called Showgrounds in Melbourne, Australia, where they also have very similar, it's a permanent structure, but now that is being used as a vaccination center. Well, we all in the same situation, but that's fine. Now, there could be industrial trade show, leather expo, textile, book fair, but in all those trade shows on fairs, the basic planning part will not change. This part will actually be the same, but I tell you, the previous show, industrial trade show, expo, fair, these are mega conventions or events, and these events actually take a lead time of 2 to 5 years. Even for that matter, even the Olympics, which takes more than 5 years, maybe sometimes 7 years. Okay, now obviously they need a very detailed planning. So have a look of some of the views, how the I was telling you, I know it's on the side. See different pictures over here which is showing you how the seating arrangements are done. Okay, so what have we learned so far? Planning for conventions and meetings as a professional task, and which is very essential for success. There must be critical needs analysis. We need to talk to organization, and it is very imperative that not just discussion or negotiation with the organization, but also with the suppliers. And last thing is that if new convention plans always come up, because every customer is different and we need to fulfill the requirements and the needs. With this, I will thank you for today, and I look forward to you finishing your subject. If there's anything, I wish you luck. Thank you and have a good day.